Yo.
You are now listening to the smoking section.
Oh yeah.
Where you'll find hot topics.
And fire conversations.
Keep it locked.
You hear me?
Yo, what is up, everybody? How you doing? So check it out. We got some new podcasts released. Got some new stuff coming up. Working closer with my buddy from Visual Abductions, Marcus Chavez. Please look him up. I've been doing some podcasts. Been doing some. I actually recorded on the Hash It Out podcast. Shout out to Hash It Out. My man Javier was recording with us last night, and dude, we covered a fucking grip of topics, like 2 hours worth of content, dude. It was fucking amazing. It was an amazing talk. We covered some really, really touchy subjects, right? And I'm about to hop into one, and it's because I'm like currently getting attacked on Facebook. So y'all know, I like to keep it fucking dramatic, right? But all within good spirit. So I'm getting attacked on Facebook, right? And I mean, I really don't give a fuck because, like Dave Chappelle said, I don't give a fuck because it's not a real place, right? A lot of these people won't have this discussion with me in person, right? Or have a civilized conversation about these things. And I'm currently getting dragged over Colin Kaepernick, right? I'm getting dragged over Colin Kaepernick, and his black and white Netflix, documentary. It's like a docu-series. I don't know why people are doing it that way, but they're doing like docu-series nowadays. But it's a docu-series, and I'm hoping that there's another season that comes out. Because I wasn't impressed. I wasn't very impressed with the movie at all, or the docu-series at all. I wasn't impressed by anything that was presented throughout the whole thing, right? Initially, right? So let me just rewind here. Initially, I saw it. I had heard about it. I saw it, played it. Didn't read an intro, didn't read like the description, didn't read none of that. Just play, right? Because I support Colin Kaepernick, right? So like, yeah, let me fucking watch this shit. So I'm watching, and spoiler alert, I do want to talk about the docu-series a little bit. So if you haven't watched it, I encourage everybody to go watch it because I am going to go spoil it right now. Anywho, so in this series, right? In the series, episode 1, I realized that it's a young Colin Kaepernick, right? He's like in the 8th grade, right? And he's starting to, for anybody who understands, right? Like young men, if you understand, right? But for people who may not understand, dude, at 8th grade as a young man, we are starting to like go through it, right? Like we're trying to figure out where we stand in the social class. We're trying to figure out where we stand, not only as an 8th grader at our own school, but how we might be moving up as a freshman and to have to start over as an underclassman all over again. It's a lot of, and I can't speak on the woman's part of that, but as men, we go through it. Testosterone's starting to hit our body, and we're just like full of rage, and like horniness and like just crazy. Like we don't even know what to do with ourselves half the time. Okay. So young 8th grade Colin Kaepernick is starting to go through it, and he's watching AI, for people who may not know, is Allen Iverson, right? Allen Iverson, was a huge icon in the NBA. He brought hip hop clothing to the NBA. He had these dudes wearing, 4XL shirts, right? With a 5XL undershirt and, size 40 pants, even though they probably weigh like a buck 40, buck 50. Right? Like straight up, like the long chains, the do-rags, the headbands, not just the headband, but like a tilted headband, you know what I'm saying? Cornrows, he had all that going, right? He had all that going, the arm sleeve, like he was stylish, right? And he brought what you would consider, right, a street style of attire to the NBA. And I only say that, right, because let's be real, it's a street style, bruh. Homie dresses like how you would dress at Rutgers Park, right? Or right here at College Estates Park, hooping with your boys, right? Like, this is just being real. This is me keeping it as real and as factual as I possibly can. So I hate when people get into like, why is it street? Why is it street? Why can't it? Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, come on. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay, like if I'm gonna call it street style, homie, it's definitely what I see in the streets, right? Because in the NBA, right? That's not an NBA style, because in the NBA, they have these fools dressed up, buttoned up, hemmed up to the max. Feel me? Like, they have them laced up, creased up. So in a European league, right? Like, I remember Europe had the jerseys with the sleeves for a while, and America picked that up too for a little bit. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, whatever, right? It's a street style, right? That was the street style. Anywho, so I'm just taking you a little bit through episode 1. So he's starting to see AI, he sees the braids and all this stuff, and he starts to emulate some of this, right? And, he goes and gets braids, right? So the first issue was the braids. And I want to just start it right here, right? Because I think this is important. Because it's going to go into the rest of my point. He got braids, cornrows, right? And I guess it became an issue with the coaching staff and an issue at home. And as some of you may or may not know, Colin Kaepernick was adopted by white parents. So I guess it became an issue even at home. Now, with that, it's imperative for me to say it's not right whether or not somebody can choose for you what to do with your own body, right? Now, young Colin Kaepernick obviously ended up, well, I won't say obviously, but he obviously though went through some, I will say obviously, so you go watch it. He obviously had to work around these issues, blah blah blah, right? I want to make sure I say this right? Because I don't mean to offend people, but again, I'm going to voice my opinion the way I so see fit. See, the problem is with that is I experienced that in high school myself. I experienced that in middle school myself. One of my buddies, matter of fact, couldn't even walk the graduation stage because he had an eagle feather on his graduation cap, right? Which is traditional garb for us. For a lot of us Native Americans, right? I won't say all Native Americans, for a lot of Native Americans, it's traditional, right? When you've received such a high honor in your life to be presented with an eagle feather. So with an eagle feather, he was presented, he wanted to go ahead and walk across the stage and own not only this American, way of life, right? Of the school system, K through 12, graduate, high school, an American societal norm, but also wanted to honor his own culture, right? And there was a big stink over that. And we went through that. Like multiple people went through that, right? I remember having to cut my hair because it's not professional. I remember having to shave and do this and do that because I don't look clean, is what they said, right? So now this isn't a woe me moment, but this is a I've heard this story before, right? I've seen this story before. So for me with the documentary, I feel like it was more of like a autobiography of Colin. And now remember, I opened up this documentary with no other preconceived notion other than it's a Colin Kaepernick fucking documentary. It's called Black and White. So I was like, oh, this is about to be dramatic, right? Like, this is going to be crazy. Like, I was expecting crazy, and I just didn't get it from this documentary, right? Like, it's a good documentary, right? Like, for the most part, if you want to kind of see what he went through, it's a cool documentary, right? There's still some parts that I don't agree with, right? That he may or may not have said. But then again, all these words aren't his own, They're not all original thoughts, because if you look at the credits, there's script writers, you know what I'm saying? So there's people who may or may not downplay some things, and there's some people who may or may not sensationalize some things, right? And there's parts where I think that they could have, you could have left that part out, fam, right? Like, that's some personal shit, like, for him, you know what I mean? And I don't want to ruin it. I want people to watch the documentary and let me know what you think about it. But for me, right, so that, I guess I might be wrong for saying that it's whack, right? But I really, quite frankly, don't give a fuck about being right. So my thing is I said it was whack because it was like, homie, you're Colin Kaepernick. You know what I'm saying? And you have a Netflix deal, right? Like, and he already stood up to the NFL, which is one of the biggest, corporations in all of America, in all of history of America, right? Like, this is $1 billion industry. Now that you have like sports books and all this DraftKings and bullshit, like, whoa, this is a huge industry, right? My problem is with it is like, okay, so going back to that story about the braids and the hair, it's like, homie, I've heard this part before, right? And I even remember when he first took a knee, people were all like, oh, well, he's never had to deal with injustice. He was raised in Turlock. He had a white mom and dad adopted him, all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. Bro, that don't mean that any of these kids, motherfucker, kids in high school are mean. Okay? Kids in high school are mean, so they probably said some fucked up shit to him, right? They probably called him all kinds of names. I don't even want to say it, but they probably called him all kinds of names, right? Because I remember going to school with kids who were adopted and they were, Indians inside of Indian families or white inside of a white family. So I can only imagine a black kid being adopted by a white family, what his black friends would say to him, right? Or what his white friends say to him. Or the Mexican, like I could only imagine the jokes, bruh. I can only imagine. And fucking high school kids are mean. Middle school kids are mean as fuck. They are evil little demons. Bruh, I am not excited for Elijah to fucking become a middle schooler. He's going to be evil. Anywho, right? But, so it's like these stories I've heard, and I've heard multiple times from multiple people, right? From multiple athletes and rappers and people. I won't even say people like me. I'll say from people like him. I've heard this story from people like him that look just like him, sound just like him, right? Endured just like him, right? Some people I've even grew up with. So it's not, okay, so it's like, so for me, somebody who's like, this person who's trying to be actively involved in the civil rights movements and somebody to continuously push the edge, right? Like I like to be from the edge, right? Because then if I play on the edge, then I don't get too absorbed in any one ideology and I can continue to create conversation, right? I can continue to create conversation around these topics because I don't subscribe wholeheartedly to any one thing, right? Do I believe black men and brown men and red men and yellow men and white men and women of all colors, shapes, sizes, credences, and political, stances. Do I believe they should be shot and killed by cops? No, they shouldn't. No way. No one should be getting shot and killed by a cop, right? Like we shouldn't even be shooting and killing each other, let alone requiring a police officer to do so as well, right? I don't believe that at all. I think that's something we can all agree to, right? That's all easily agreed to, right? Now, my problem is this, right? And this is just with the documentary. I'm just talking about just the documentary, right? Is why, and again, I opened up this documentary, started watching it before I had realized this was more of like a backstory to Colin, right? I just wish they would have took a second and said, hey, this is what happened while I was in the NFL, right? Like, what happened in the locker room before the game? What happened right after the game? Did you talk to any of your friends about this? What were those conversations like? Can we get them in the studio and talk to them too? Will they be open about it? What did the coach of the 49ers say to you? What was that first conversation when you had the workout back with the NFL, when they gave you the workout? What did that look like? What did that feel like? Well, of course you've been dealing with this, these prejudices from the community. You've had to deal with this your whole life. Okay. I subscribe to that. Right. But help me subscribe to when you decided to actually stand up and voice your opinion. Was it the kneel down game? Was it the sit down game when you sat down during the allegiance? Was it the first kneel down? When was it? Who was it? Where was it? Right. Let's talk about some of that. What about, people have talked about that he's received death threats. Right. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it. Right. Let's talk about it. Now, I pay close attention to him. I pay closer attention to Colin Kaepernick and what he says on these fronts nowadays because he took money from Nike, right? Now, what does the money from Nike have to do with anything? It has to do with everything, matter of fact, because I don't believe Colin got that docu-series on his own, right? Because all the material is not even completely written by him, right? Like, there's still other people producing and directing this docu-series, right? And anybody who's a creator, anybody who's created something, right? Like created something out of their mind, right? Knows that the more hands that are in the pot, the more, the less and less likely it'll be for your vision to come out the way that you envisioned it in your mind, right? So the more creators that you have working on a project, the more different and skewed it becomes than the original version, right, that you may have in your head. But that's also the beauty of creating something with other people, right, because you get a little bit of everything. So do I believe that Nike may have had some influence on the way that this documentary was ran? Yes. Do I believe that they had influence on the way that it was written? Yes. Do I believe that they had influence on the way that it was distributed? Yes. Right. I don't find it so coincidental that it landed on Netflix. Right. And more than likely we'll probably end up on like ESPN Plus, I don't know, maybe not ESPN Plus, but we'll end up like on Hulu and HBO Max. It's going to end up on these other streaming services, but Netflix for sure, right? That takes a lot of money, right? Like, so I just don't think Colin has the money like that anymore to do it by himself. So I do think that Nike's involved heavily. I think they're heavily involved. Prove me wrong, right? I don't mind that. I don't mind that part. But then again, like, my expectation, and maybe this is where I'm wrong, right? But my expectation, just clicking on the fucking video, just watching just the documentary, asking no questions beforehand, it disappointed me. I will say this, and this was a part, so if I even put down my preconceived notion of what I hoped it had been, the docuseries is, it was cool. It was all right. It was a story I've heard a million times. Right. So they could have skipped all the in-between breaks to Colin's face and reading off these statistics about different people and, all this stuff. I am glad that they mentioned Marcus Garvey, right, and some of the other civil rights leaders. People always think that only Jackie Robinson was the first black player ever in baseball, right? But let me mention one other name to you, Jim Thorpe, right? So Jackie Robinson didn't break the color barrier, right? He didn't break the official color barrier. What he did was he broke the color barrier and played as a black man. Look that up, right? Look up Negro Leagues, right? And then also the conception of I think they were the American Baseball League back then. I think they were the ABL. Yeah, look that up. Look into that. Right, and you'll start to see some of the points that they brought up in the docuseries, which I thought was great. But I don't even want to talk about this honestly because it just it breaks my heart, fam. But I'll talk about it. Colin was adopted, obviously, right, and his adoption parents had seeked out, I guess a child, right, because they couldn't give birth. And the first child they had agreed to adopting and all this stuff was not available upon the time of adoption. And so they were also presented with another child who was Colin. And this is what he said. He said, I was He pretty much said that he was settled for, that he wasn't chosen. Well, my lovely friends, I interrupt this broadcast to bring you a couple supporters of the Smoking Section podcast. First, we have Tiki Jenkins, who is a musical artist and krump dancer member of the DCX Krump crew. Yeah, you can find him on Spotify. Listen to his music, you might even catch a couple of his tunes spinning in the background. Next, I have Jason Judge Snell. Yeah, he's out here repping Bear Witness. He's out here throwing sessions and educating the youth and even adults on the importance of dance and its culture. Find him on Instagram at bearwitness.session. That's BARE witness.session on Instagram. Yeah. Thank you guys for always supporting, showing love. Yeah. Now back to the show. And that to me is a hurtful thing to say. That is not cool. That is not cool at all. It's really disappointing to hear that, actually, because you were chosen, right? Matter of fact, you were blessed. You were blessed, right? Because what if they had passed up on you and then took another child, right? Then you got passed up twice, supposedly, right? So what if the people that would have adopted you after them would have raped and murdered you, right? So to look back and say that you were nobody's first choice, that you were this and that, right, settled for, that hurts. That sucks, right? Like, that sucks, bro. Like, that sucks, bro. Like, I don't even know what happened to your own mom and dad, bro. So let's not talk about people's first choice, bro. Like, your parents, the people who raised you, your adopted parents, did the best they could, right? And could they have done more? Maybe, right? But hindsight is fucking 20/20, bro. And anybody who's a parent, anybody who has kids or have been around kids, right? Even just around kids, you know that there's no instruction manual. There's nobody telling you how to raise these things. There's nobody telling you how to do this shit, right? You're just trying to figure out the best way you can. So that part to me really turned me off, right? Because it's like Colin, it's like you're saying that they put two babies beside each other, right? Or three babies beside each other, and then and then they picked both these babies, but then had to settle for you. Like, that's the feeling I get. And I know that's not what he meant. I know that's probably not what he meant, right? But damn, my boy, you making your foster parents look like fucking pieces of shit. Like, real life. Like, if I was any stupider than what I already am, like, I would hate your foster parents. I would hope they die for the way they treated you. But I'm not that stupid, right? I'm not fucking retarded, right? Like, they could have treated you like the Gabriel Fernandez kid, or Hernandez, whatever his last name was. Rest in peace, right? You could have got that mom. So let's not act like you had the worst parents ever. Cool. Again, I'm not subscribing to the way that they fucking treated you, or the way that they talked to you, or the way that they told you to do whatever. I do not subscribe to that notion, not one bit, right? But I'm not going to sit here and just accept everything someone says, right, as law, or I accept it for it to be as it is, right? That's mindlessness, the stupidity. I'm going to have my thoughts, and I'm going to have my reactions, right? And until proven and provided with better information, right, I'm going to have my opinions. But at the same time, right, because I'm getting fucking dragged on Facebook. At the same time, like, why are you going to hate me for this, right? I open up conversation, right? I'm willing to have the conversation. I'm willing to say the things that people are either thinking and are too afraid to say, or just too dumb to even think of it, okay? So don't kill the messenger, right? Hang me, whatever. But at least hear the story. At least hear the story that I got to say. I expected more. I hoped for more. I expected more. Colin has been an icon the past 10 years, right, with football. Everywhere from the way he played, right? Everywhere from the way he played to the way that he decided not to play and everything thereafter. The protests, the posts, the videos, other people joining in on his movement, the discussions happening around the league, the arguments. He created a lot, and he was the martyr for that. You know, he opened up a serious mode of conversation, right? He's still not in the league. I think that's an issue. I still believe that that's an issue. I believe that he needs to be in the league playing, right? No one could sit here and tell me, right, that there is 64 better quarterbacks in the league right now that was better than Colin Kaepernick when he took the 49ers to the fucking Super Bowl. Okay? No one can sit here and tell me that. Nobody. Nobody can sit here and tell me that Colin Kaepernick wasn't slicing up defenses and that there's 64 better quarterbacks, right? I could probably give you, you know, he could definitely play for the Lions, right? Like right now, he could definitely start for the fucking Lions, okay? Easily, right? Jared Goff is my fucking guy, right? But Colin Kaepernick was the truth. So I think, you know, they bet the fucking house on Colin Kaepernick up there in San Fran, right? Alex Smith with all this shit when he went down. Bro, bet the fucking house on the guy. Bet the fucking house. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he doesn't deserve to be in the league. He does. He does. Now, the protest rules that they have and all that stuff, I'm not going to get into that argument because that's a whole nother can of worms that I'm just not ready to I just don't want to get into that today. But Colin deserves to be in the league. He deserves to have his voice heard. He deserves to play, right? He should be in the league. And I don't know what that plan of action would be, right? His documentary, I'm disappointed. I'm going to just leave that there. I'm disappointed. Wish it was better. I hope they come out with another season so that hopefully, like I said, we can see how things may have happened for him while either like in the league, some of the stuff that he may have faced from the owners or, you know, front office people. I would like to see that. Or what he's been doing meantime since getting exiled from the league. Right? I would like to see that. That's what I was hoping for in the docu-series. That's what I was hoping to see. That's what I was hoping to hear. And unfortunately, I didn't get that. Right? So I'm a little disappointed. Again, don't kill me for just not agreeing with everything. Right? But that's my opinion. Yeah, that's just the way it boils down. And if anybody can explain to me why they did it that way, or maybe that they are coming out with another season of the black and white story, you know, I'll be glad to hear it. I'd fucking love to. But until then, right, you got what you got. Yeah. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Yeah, I hope you have an amazing week, month, year, and life. But until next time, yeah, I hope you all stay motivated out there. I'll see you on the flip side, all right? Bang, bang, bang.